We are talking UFC 313 with the voice of the UFC, Jon Anik. I'm Ethan Diamandas. This is The Huddle. John, let's get into the main event. Light heavyweight title bout. Alex Pereira, Magomed Ankalaev. Pick 'em odds between Pereira and Ankalaev. I think it's a pretty fair line. I think there are a lot of cases for both sides. But as I dig into the narratives around this fight, John, I see some betting experts suggest that Pereira looked a little bit sluggish last time out at UFC 307 against Khalil Rountree. You know, people even intimated if it were a 3-round fight, you know, Rountree would be the new champion. You can make a lot of arguments like that, but it was a bit of a Pereira slow start. He wrapped it up with, you know, an exclamation mark in round 4. He's 37 years old now. I'm not going to ever call this guy washed. Ankalaev's only 32, but with that sort of narrative in mind, Pereira's slow start at UFC 307. I mean, what did you make from that fight against Rountree, and what were some of your takeaways?
No, I think he just fought a really game opponent who was ready to match a lot of the things that Pereira brings to the table when it comes to, I think, heart and toughness and championship mettle and being present in fight and being focused the whole time. I think at some point you got to credit Khalil Rountree Jr. And as you were asking me this question, I went for my notes because Alex Pereira told us in the fighter meeting before the Rountree Jr. fight, he's not as conditioned to the spotlight. Now, Rountree Jr. performed well. Magomed Ankalaev certainly is not as conditioned to the spotlight as Alex Pereira, and sometimes that can play a factor. To whatever degree Alex Pereira thought it might be a factor for Rountree Jr., and it was not. You have seen historically, and I went back through the odds history today, for one reason or another, Alex Pereira has not been some monumental favorite against Jamal Hill or twice against Yuri Prochazka, right? Never once has he been minus 280, minus 300. And I think were I not to be calling this fight, I would be wondering aloud, like, why? Why is he minus 118 right now? I understand how good Magomed Ankalaev is, right? Of course I do. You know, I'll be talking in big ways about the guy all week. But my goodness, man, right? Like, I do believe if I was a straight handicapper, I would be cussing left and right and being like, why is Alex Pereira minus 118? Why are big bettors not moving this to minus 150, right? What does this guy need to do? And it's not from odds makers, right? You don't say like, oh, why doesn't he get the respect from the odds makers? No, they'll move the line if they get a big bet. I love Magomed Ankalaev. I think he has a great chance to win the fight. But my goodness, man, like, the price is right for anyone who has wanted to bet on Poatan essentially in any fight during his light heavyweight championship reign. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. And I encourage you to try to poke flaws in that logic. And I kind of agree with you as well, because I'm in the camp of you bet a guy until he proves he doesn't have it anymore. And if I, you know, bust out on that last bet just because it happened that Poatan's time was up, I mean, I'm okay to handle that as a bettor. Both these, the main and the co-main, I have a bone to pick with some of the odds, and I think that there's totally an opportunity to capitalize on that. I mean, we'll get into Poatan's legacy later, but I mean, what more does this guy have to do to see some minus 250, minus 300? I mean, he's had, what was it, like 5 title fights in 18 months. He's just been incredible. So I think that's something else to point out, the spotlight factor. And I mean, not to dunk on Magomed Ankalaev, but you know, he's been in a title fight before, and it didn't look like he necessarily rose to that occasion or was super comfortable or was the best version of himself way back when. So something to note there. A lot of people, John, when they're handicapping this fight, they turn to Magomed's fight strategy. I don't want to say fight IQ, more so fight strategy. And I think it is interesting because he is presumably a really strong wrestler. But he averages, you know, just under 1 takedown per 15 minutes. Could be a lot of reasons for this, but John, why do you feel like he opts to not use his wrestling as much as some people think he should?
Well, former Greco-Roman wrestling champion in Dagestan, but it's because he's a striker, my man, right? Magomed Ankalaev is a striker and a very gifted one at that. He hits well out of both stances. He kicks a lot, right? He had a decorated amateur career. He's a lifer, man. Like, he has been at this, building all of these skills for a long time. He's very comfortable in combat. He's comfortable in chaos, but he's more comfortable as a striker, and he's a very willing striker. Now, this matchup would suggest to you that he should mix it up and wrestle. I think he needs to fight on instinct more than he needs to be overthinking about which martial art he's going to try to employ. But he's got a lot of ways to win the fight. on the feet. You know, he's the younger man. He has been in a lot of big fights. And if we do harken back to his fight against Jan Blachowicz for the vacant title in 2022, you know, he lost the first 3 rounds on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards, you know, before earning a split draw by rallying late and getting a 10-8 on one judge's scorecard, right? He had to make mid-fight adjustments because his leg was trash, right? So can he get off to a fast start? Can he avoid the vaunted Poatan calf kick early and not have that be some major factor in the fight early? It's a fascinating fight. And even though I'm certainly animated a little bit about the betting line and maybe wondering aloud why Poatan isn't higher, Magomed Ankalaev is the man, and I think he is going to perform well, even if I think he should probably be plus 140.